Hi, and welcome to the Unhinged History Podcast, the podcast where two compulsive nut jobs were doom scrolling one day, reading the history memes, and then rabbit holing about those memes, and then joining forces to tell each other the memes about the stories we've only recently learned. And one day we decided to record said conversation. I'm host one.
I'm host too.
Yeah.
I'm Angie, that's Theresa.
Oh, hey, look, we can do that.
We have names.
Do we?
I do.
All right, I'll go with it.
I mean, I'm often, hey, toots or sister or whistle sounds, but whatever. You work
I
with what you
need to,
got.
I mean, shoot, I think most of the things I'm called are bleeped out on polite television.
You, I was gonna say you have a name for radio, and then I realized that doesn't work.
No, it's just beep.
And sheep beep, and then sheep beep.
Yeah, that's, I don't, what do you want me to say?
Live your truth.
Roger boo, bishop boo. Let me talk into my coffee cup and not into the microphone.
I'm sorry. I'm still drinking hot beverages like I'm never gonna get another hot beverage again. So I apologize.
I mean, you are just coming off of a cold where you would just text me and go, "Can we delay recording? You don't want to hear me speak. You think you do, but you do not want to hear me speak."
I can assure you, you did not. Like, this is the very best I've sounded in 10 days. Several of those days I had almost no voice, and when I did, I could get like 3 words out. It was a croak, and then I would just die after that. Like, there'd be no words after that.
That's how you get through with not doing your notes. Is you just, so I was doing the,
It.
yeah. Honestly, I
My
like that
notes are
for you.
fabulous.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you my notes then.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, I'm going to tell you the story of Jeanne de Clisson.
Okay.
Okay, my sources: Library of Congress, French Women and Feminists in History, a resource guide, Jeanne de Clisson. Jeanne de Clisson, The Lioness of Brittany by M.A. Delaney. Okay, so I listened to a couple of podcasts. I dipped into the Poisoner's Cabinet, episode 229, Jeanne de Clisson, Lioness of Brittany. And then there is the Queen's podcast. They did an episode on her as well. And so I'm going to take you all the way back to year 1300.
Love this.
Okay, so we're in Brittany. Um, she's born, she's of noble birth. Maybe a lesser noble, but still a noble. We'll take even the lessers.
A
She
noble
is
is a noble.
right. Bluish blood, blue enough.
Yeah, works for me.
She is Jean-Louise Brinville, born in Brinville. Apparently, she comes from a line of salt farmers.
Oh, I don't know why that was never a job that was in my wheelhouse.
It should have been in mine, but I immediately dipped back to the moisture farmers of Luke Skywalker's lineage.
Oh, gross. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Um, I don't know why, but that was related. These are things. So when she hits the ripe old age of 12, our girl gets married.
Oh, of course.
Uh, he's a 19-year-old dude. He's previously been married because
Oh,
these are
the
things.
plague.
I don't, yeah, maybe. I didn't see that anywhere, but that doesn't mean it wasn't. Um, because he's already, gotten one notch under his belt, he already has a kid that he brings to the marriage. And their marriage, lasts just over 4 years.
Great.
Um,
Okay.
During this time, they have two kids. He fights in quite a few local skirmishes, and while he's gone, she's manning the fort. Like she's literally being the lady of the land. And so we're thinking like age 14, she's managing an estate.
Don't. We all wish we could manage something at age 14, only to realize at age 30 that we could have just had a bedtime. It would have been fine.
Yeah, that's literally all we need. I just want a nap and somebody to make my snack. Please and thank you. I
Yeah,
don't need
pretty
to be in
much.
charge.
Mm-hmm.
But as her dude is off fighting all these skirmishes, he dies.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
And so she gets married again. This time she gets married to the son of the Duke of Brittany.
Okay.
So this is a very fortuitous marriage. This is her moving right on up in the world. Um, that marriage gets annulled, which is
Oh, that's
weird.
unfortunate.
And there seems to be that this was some kind of like political maneuvering bits that,
Okay.
maybe because he is the son of the Duke of Brittany, that they could have gotten him a more advantageous marriage. And yeah, so she's cute, but you could marry this other person and do better by your family.
Who has more acres and more castles and
Right.
more servants and
I mean,
things?
whatever it is, right? I mean, this is one of those big
Whose
reasons
dad
why,
I play poker with on Tuesdays.
right, and you can't shun the family.
Right.
So, that seemed really bizarre as far, getting that done. But they get the annulment set up, so she just goes through it. But she's still got some wealth from hubby number one. She's got a couple kids. And then she meets this man named Oliver de Clisson in 1330. He's wealthy. He's got a son from a previous marriage. Now, there's actually some kind of ambiguity here because they're going to go on to have five kids. There's possibly the fact that maybe she had her first son with Oliver while married to husband number one. Unclear.
Okay.
So just because they got married in 1330 does not mean that that was the first time they shacked up.
Gotcha. Okay.
So there might be some fuzzy birthdays. It's like on your wedding day when it's like, when's the baby due? Only in this case, it was, how old are you?
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
He
hold on
has
to
my
that.
eyes. Ah,
Yeah.
this is charming.
You look just like her new husband.
Interesting.
Huh.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's kind of a fun thing. Hold on to that though. We don't know a ton about their relationship, but the it's easy to note that the annulment went through and then very quickly things line up because Oliver's wife dies just the year before. So this isn't his first rodeo either. Um, so their marriage is very likely a love match.
I like this. It's at least a like match.
It's a like match at least. And then there's this line, which comes on the heels of that last sentence. She insists on a prenup,
Get it, girl.
which I did not know 1300s prenups were things. She demands that he provides for the children of her previous marriage,
Good.
which I am here for. Together, they go on to have a sizable chunk of land because she's got her land, he's got his, they've got theirs. She's controlling areas in Poitou. That's probably not how you say it. And Oliver is holding a castle at Clisson along with other territories. And like I said, they have five children between them, ambiguous ages of the first one.
Okay, I love this.
So, despite them being in love, she does take him to court for failing to meet expectations.
That I find more impressive than having a prenup in the 1300s.
She doesn't believe he's providing for his stepchildren. And there's also this little matter of the dowry that he owes her. And the king ends
Oh,
up
so I'm
siding.
assuming she has no father at this point? Did I just completely miss that part?
I mean, I didn't go that deep into this.
Gotcha.
I mean, I figured I had a lot of details for 1300s. I did not think I was going to be quizzed on when did Daddy Dearest die.
I mean, that's fair. I was just thinking like the logistics of her first husband dying, like wouldn't she have gone right back under the protection of her father, who then would have made the next advantageous match, right? Like
I mean, she got the son of the Duke of Brittany. I mean, I think she was doing pretty good on her own. I mean, maybe dad did help out with that. I don't know. Anyhow,
we don't know, but
um,
I like it either way. She
yeah,
she is going after her uh alimony. That's not
she
the
is
right word.
setting herself up. Like she is getting
Yeah.
what's hers. Um, so the king ends up siding with her and giving
Okay.
her, forcing hubby to do right by her and honor his word. Um, but okay, so there's that. But I'm gonna back up a second because there's a lot of like, okay, now we're gonna go back. So 1328, we have Charles IV of France who dies childless, being the closest heir his nephew, the English king, which is Edward III. Now, the French nobility, they're like, no, 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 no. Eddie III ain't our king because
We didn't vote for him.
pretty much, right? Um, they think that there needs to be a native Frenchman who rules, that you can't just have some Englishman just sitting up on your throne saying he's king and calling it that. And so they end up having a very bloody, long lasting conflict that would come to be known as the Hundred Years' War, even though this sucker lasts 116 years, because just,
116 years war is hard to like get out of the.
I mean, I was kind of equating it to any kind of construction work you have done around the house. It's always more expensive and it takes longer than whatever they tell you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, as this is going on, there's also a parallel conflict, which is the War of Breton Succession, because nothing happens in a vacuum. So, there's a couple of things happening simultaneously. And so, we have 1341, we've got the Duke of Brittany, who is John III, Daddy, the Duke of Brittany, who, finished like like marriage number two. I could say hubby number two because that's not true. That guy lived. But he dies without an heir. So I don't know what happened. Maybe she got out of that marriage and everybody underneath him collapsed like a flan in the cupboard. Unclear. But it plunges that region of the country into turmoil. Charles de Bois, the husband of John the Third's niece Johanna, he ends up succeeding the Duke of Brittany.
I'm gonna need you to draw me a map.
Okay, so John the Third, the Duke of Brittany, his niece is Joanna.
But John the Third, the Duke of Brittany's son, who was originally married to our
To our
girl,
girl,
who
we don't know
annulled.
I didn't figure out what happened to him. That I don't want
Okay,
to get hung up on
I've
like
got it.
details,
No, I've
okay?
got it. I just was a little
But
confused for a
yeah,
second.
no, chicks can't inherit. So Johanna like inherits the man who marries me gets title.
Love this for her.
I don't. What if she wanted
I'm
to be
being
like,
sarcastic
oh, okay.
because
Um,
imagine man who marries me gets the title directly translates to I am now forever in a bidding war for my title.
yeah,
Like the opportunity to marry for love is like almost
done. It's a foregone conclusion.
I would have to think so unless
Yeah.
like the stars align just right.
But anyhow, so Joanna and her hubby, they assume the position and they get a lot of support from French nobility, right? Um, but we have John the Third's half brother who kind of opposes Charles's right as Duke. And so he petitions the English king because everybody can't keep their fingers in their own politics for support. And so now we've got two different conflicts that are feeding this political turmoil.
Right, okay.
Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, politics in France at this time is not a very fun place to be. Long
This
story
feels
short.
right. Yeah, I mean probably Britain and France at the same time are probably really
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So Oliver, just because I've said a ton of names, who is our girl Jean's husband, third husband,
Who she
second
likes.
marriage. Yeah, she loves this dude.
Okay. Okay.
He sides with the French. His brother is on the
As you
British
do.
side.
Oh, of course.
Um, and Oliver gets captured by the English and then he gets released. He ends up having like this really low ransom. He's released for a dude who is the first Earl of Stafford. And
It's like a prisoner swap.
it's yeah, basically. But he also
Okay.
like there's also like a little bit of a fee attached to it as well, with a suspiciously low ransom, matter of fact. Um, Meanwhile,
Why is it suspiciously? That is hilarious.
well, okay, so that little details can be super important here in like a paragraph. So stick with me.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, I just immediately thought of Caesar and was like, What's suspiciously low, Teresa?"
Well, okay, so well, put a pin in that. Put a pin in that, okay? Because there's a dude who's captured alongside our dude Oliver, and he's never released. So this just kind of, raise an eyebrow. The kids say this is sus.
Okay.
Okay. So that's happening. And we get Charles de Boy. He's not too keen on Oliver now. He's like, you used to be my dude, but now I'm kind of concerned that this might be a setup. Um,
Like perhaps he could be a plant?
like maybe he could have turned coded and now be a spy
Maybe
or
blink
given his.
twice if you need help.
I mean, I wouldn't say blink twice. I would more say you turned on me, you rat
Mm,
bastard.
you rat bastard. Got it.
So it's now 1343. The English and the French have signed a truce and they decide they're going to celebrate with a tournament. Okay, so this is looking good-ish. Um, the French king invites Oliver and about 12 to 14 other minor lords, depending on what text you read, to a tournament in Paris. Small problem, there's no actual tournament. It's a trap. And all of the lords are accused of treason.
So you let me get excited for a tournament story?
And I lifted your hopes just high enough to smash them on the rocks of
Cool.
disappointment.
I was really hoping the Black Knight was gonna enter and save the day, but like whatever.
I mean, okay, so back home, Jeanne is frantic. She's home with the kids and she is not having a good day. She's doing everything she can to stave off these legal battles. She's trying to get a stay and she ends up even bribing the guards to help him escape. She is doing
Okay.
everything. Now, she's ended up getting discovered that she's bribing the guards to help him escape, and the guards get in big ass trouble for this, and she flees, doesn't get caught, but she's tried in absentia and found guilty.
Okay.
And just like her trial happening without her, his Oliver's trial is also a sham. Um, so he gets tried next without any evidence. He's convicted and beheaded.
Mm.
His head is sent to Brittany and it's put on a spike.
Yeah. Okay.
You've heard this part of the story? I'm ringing bells.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was
So,
gonna I was gonna say I have a question, but I didn't want to like blow it, so I just gonna be excitedly gasping.
yep. She takes her young sons to go see the head,
As you do.
and she makes her sons swear an oath of revenge against the king.
That's intense.
I I mean, this girl, she does not go half-hearted on anything. Um, Meanwhile, the king is busy seizing her lands to fund his war efforts.
As you do.
And so she decides to do the next logical thing. She sells everything that she can get her hands on.
Okay.
And she manages to raise a force of 400 men.
Okay.
And then she leads this army and she starts attacking many French strongholds, including allegedly a place called the Chateau de Tofu, a garrison that is owned by a friend of hers and also an officer of Charles de Bois or de Blois. I don't think I said the L before. Um, during which her army massacres the entire garrison except for one survivor. Her army just rampages along the Normandy coast, burning many villages to the ground. She just Boudica's this place.
Love this for her.
Now, some sources say when she goes up to the chateau, she goes up by herself.
Like to just ring the
just to
bell.
the gate. Like,
Okay.
hello, you remember me? Hi. Yes.
So,
Why don't you open it for me? Oh, it's open. Boys who just come swarming out of the trees.
love this visual.
Yes.
I'm picturing her in like 1950s housewife attire. Oh,
The very,
gentlemen.
like, yeah, with the boa fringe. Yeah, no, I'm here
Yep.
for it. I can't think that it's period accurate, but honestly, for the remake, we're just gonna,
Yeah. It's not period accurate at all, but like I'm just seeing it, you know?
yeah. So during this rampage, the king hears about it because she's leaving a sole survivor at each place.
Oh my God, I love that for her. Just to leave a message.
Yes. Want to make sure you know it was me. Hi. We're playing phone
Hmm.
tag. I've called a couple of times.
I've
Um,
texted. I
yeah.
sent you an email.
Per my
Did you
last
get it?
email.
We'll circle back.
So the king, he decides that he wants to stop her because apparently this is how you get her to stop her shenanigans. Like you have to escalate to this kind of thing before he stops leaving you on red. So she decides she's going to push out to sea and she sails off to England and she meets King Eddie III. And Eddie
Okay.
III is pretty excited by meeting her. As he's meeting her, it's 1343 now. Our girl is found guilty of treason, and this results in the confiscation of the rest of her lands that she hadn't maybe sold or hadn't previously been seized. Meanwhile, King Eddie III is like doing the most because he ends up granting her income from lands in Brittany, English-owned lands.
Well, because
And
I'm
so,
thinking like Eddie 3 is probably stoked. She's caught like she's
yeah,
doing the work for him.
right. So he's basically giving her like some money because she needs it. And she takes the money from Eddie 3 and she buys three merchant ships. And she buys merchant ships because they're faster.
This is genius. Okay.
She paints the ships black and she dyes the sails red.
I did not know that fact.
She names the
That is so
flagship.
menacing.
Oh my gosh, this girl, she just knows how to tell a good story. Leaving the one sole
Yes.
survivor, just doing the sole rampage up the coast. Like, she names the
Here for it.
flagship of her Black Fleet My Revenge.
Yes. Yes.
And then she sails the English Channel looking for French commerce ships, and she's actively avoiding the Navy. Her ships
As
would cor
opposed to Kim Chaka, who is actively trying to find the Navy
and hitting fishing vessels
every time.
or their own vessels.
You know.
But anyhow, so she's doing this thing with her ships where they would corner a commerce ship, and then her men would swarm aboard, and then she'd board the boat with an axe. And she'd look through the crew and identify any French nobles, and she'd behead the nobles first herself.
Yes.
And then reportedly, she would kick their bodies overboard, and then they'd loot the ships and kill everybody but one person.
So they don't burn the ships. They just leave the one to steer the wheel and
Yeah, the
hope they
one
make
to
it
just
back.
go with God.
Be
Um,
blessed.
but she wanted to do the nobles first because she wanted the nobles to know they were no better than the lowly man and that they weren't going to be able to talk their way out of it.
Love this for her.
I mean, honestly, she just went so hard. It is so lovely. Like
Can that be the title? She went so hard. It's so lovely.
when I told you this story, I was just like, I'm back. I found my old groove. This is me back on my bullshit. Like, I am here for this.
I missed your bullshit.
Mm. So she goes through and hunting these ships for 13 years.
She's on her bullshit.
She's on her bullshit for 13 years. And this earns her the moniker the Lioness of Brittany.
Is that all I gotta do?
It's just 13 years of axe wielding, Angie. Would you just commit to the bit?
I think I could. Like, yeah, like I mean,
Parent-teacher
I don't want to be the
conferences would
lion.
go very differently if you just walked in with an axe.
Just set it down on the table. Like, yes, I'm their mother.
Yeah. You wanted to talk to me about his behavior problems.
Darling, do wait outside.
Yeah, that would be hilarious. I would pay to watch. Um, Anyhow, the Lioness of Brittany. She's if you look through her story, there's a lot of like ambiguity on what's fact, what's fiction, what's been legendized out of her. Um,
Bro, because she's a legend one way or the other, so it's pretty, I'm sure it's hard to
right.
tell the difference.
Yeah. At some point you'll just be like, and she would drink their blood. And you're like, honestly, this checks.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Why wouldn't you? Her boat's called My Revenge.
Yeah. Like
I drink it
she
out of one of their
dyed the
skulls.
sails red.
With their blood.
Girl, didn't want to
Just
waste.
saying.
Waste
Yeah.
not, want not. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so she's often referred to as an English privateer, but there's no proof of such an agreement because to be a privateer was actually like you had
Illegal.
a piece of paper for it, right? Now, the French historian Jean Froissart wrote in his famous Chronicles of Medieval History and the Hundred Years' War that Jean had the heart of a lion, and in Paris they called her the tragic widow
Okay.
because in Paris they were like, she's just heartbroken.
It's just the hysteria of heartbreak.
She's just the anti-hero,
I mean, kinda.
right?
She's just setting things straight.
Now, our story does take a turn because at one point she encounters a French naval vessel, and reports are that she fights and fights. It's, I don't know much about the particulars here. Um, in fact, like I know it was around this time that the French had their first cannons on these boats, but did this boat have cannon? Did she go up against cannon? Unclear. Um,
Gotcha.
she fights and fights. They're not prepared to stand up against a French naval ship, right? Her men are dying. Eventually, she can see that her defeat is a foregone conclusion. So she boards a lifeboat. And some sources say that she's able to bring on her two sons. And another source says she's also able to squeeze on like some other surviving crew. Um, Either way, she's adrift in the English Channel for 5 or 6 days of rowing
Ooh,
in the freezing cold. Her
okay.
youngest son dies of exposure.
Mm.
She keeps him in the boat, rows back to Brittany. When she's in Brittany, she buries her son, and then she goes back out to war.
Fair. I would have done the same thing. This is
So
giving House of the Dragon.
I still haven't seen it, but these are things. But 1350, the king dies, and the historical record starts getting quieter about our girl. Now, we do know that she ends up meeting an English knight named Sir Walter Bentley. And Bentley ends up doing some wrestling to get some control of Jeanne's lands that the king had seized. And he ends up getting them back for her.
Mm.
And it's around this time that we have the Black Death kicking off in the area.
Oh,
So this is kind of a crazy time. Um, but she seems to have had a decent life with Sir Walter Bentley. We don't know a ton because it gets real quiet. But she dies in 1360, a few weeks apart from her husband.
hmm.
So
So she
she's
married him.
Yeah, she ended up marrying Sir Walter Bentley. Um, her son that she had with Oliver de Clisson, who stayed or who lived, his name is also Oliver. He becomes known later in life as the Butcher due to his brutality in battle.
I wonder who he learned it from.
He got it from his mama.
Yeah, he did.
But that is the story of Jeanne de Clisson, the Lioness of Brittany.
Ugh, that was so fun. I had no I'm just reeling over the black ships with the red sails. Like that's terrifying.
She had me at an axe.
I mean, fair. T Totally fair. Yeah. I mean, she had me at the Lioness of Brittany. Like, I need to know the story behind that, but like, I have black ships with red sails and an axe.
Yeah, I'm going to
God,
sell everything I own to raise an army of 400 men to just start burning and pillaging everything that reminds me of French nobility.
love this for her. She's just, she's just doing what we all want to do every now and then, you know?
Honestly, like this is why rage rooms are such a thing,
That's why I love going to the dump. Just chuck everything in there and watch it break.
right?
Yeah, big fan. I have no idea how to segue into my story. Not a clue.
Sharp departure.
Sharp hit, yep. Do keep your hands and feet inside while we make this sharp left turn. My story, I'm just gonna start with my sources. Womeninexploration.org. There's a lovely timeline on there for Mary Kingsley. There's a fabulous Atlas Obscura article. I'm just gonna give you the title. Mary Kingsley, Victorian female explorer. It's kind of a boring title, but it's fun later when you know why.
Okay.
This is by Tao Tao Holmes. It was written in 2015. There is an enchantedlearning.com which has like a breakdown of like all sort of different people. So explorers is one of their categories. So it's kind of cool. So it's just like a little blurb to kind of wet your whistle. And LOE.org. I also Wikipedia'd some stuff because we get into a part of British history I'm not really familiar with, so I needed to understand a little bit of timeline stuff.
Okay.
And my disclaimer before I actually start my story is I think I'm in a phase right now where I'm just really interested in extra nuanced people because this individual is one of them. So, um, I just love her, but for strange reasons. So, with that being said, I'm going to tell you the story about Mary Kingsley. Um, her story that I'm going to give you is only about 6 to 7 years of her life. The rest of her life is spent sort of as a domesticated home life. Um,
Okay.
so her story starts in Highgate, London. She's born on October 13th, 1862. Her name is Mary Henrietta Kingsley. She's the daughter of Mary Bailey and George Kingsley. Now, George, he's a pretty interesting fella, her dad. He, according to Wikipedia, is a writer, traveler, and medical doctor. And it was him being this private physician he catered to several aristocratic families and patrons. So in doing so, he's well traveled. According to, again, Wikipedia, he had adapted this idea of foreign travel as a means of treatment for your ailments.
Okay, now hold on. What year is this?
She was born in 1862, so this is in the years just prior and during her childhood.
Okay.
And I just have to say, like, where do I find a doctor that tells me foreign travel will cure my problems?
See, I've seen recent studies about that, but then the comment thread was like, okay, but like, if I need to travel every 6 months to Europe for my mental health, where do I fund that? And then also, how do I afford both it and the healthcare?
That's true. We are Americans. Um, so as he's attending to his different patients, he is often traveling with them to these locations, either in an official capacity as their doctor or as a traveling companion.
That's how you do
And,
it. I
right?
think you'd feel better in the south of France, and I should
Let's go.
accompany you there.
You may need your vitals checked every now and then. Um, it in this fashion, he travels a good chunk of the world, and while he's doing so, he's reading, he's writing, and he is learning like everything he can um about the people, about the things he's encountering, the people he's encountering, the things that he's seeing, but he never makes it to Africa. So when his daughter's born, she kind of grows up, as Atlas Obscura says, as an armchair explorer. Her dad's library is full of all sorts of science and travel literature. She's never schooled, but it's like, despite that fact, she's very well educated. Like she never leaves his library and she has access to everything that he's got in there. And so while brother does get sent off to Cambridge, she is just sent to the library. And I'm kind of ticked off about that. Like I would have liked to gone to Cambridge, thank you so
Right.
much. But this is 1862. So
Were they even letting women in at the time?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. At least maybe not in the capacity that she wanted to be in. Um, Either way, she didn't mind. I don't know, but that fact will come up later. Another interesting fact that's gonna come up later, and just I just really want you to keep this particular one like on simmer on the back burner. She's raised agnostic. So like
Okay.
just hold that thought. When she's 26, she does leave England for a short trip to Paris, but that's it until a few years later when unfortunately both of her parents die like in the same year of each other. So it's now 1892. She's 30. Now, I had mentioned earlier, Papa Kingsley, he's traveled and he's studied people all over the world. This is including places like the Americas, China, India. He would see places like Japan, New Zealand, Australia, but he never sets foot in Africa. So Mary's like, well, I'm sort of the only one, and I'm done caring for my parents. I'm done with this domestic life. I'm already 30. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna study Africa. So, like, she kind of sets out to fill the hole of his study because he has no information to provide. So she sets off for the port of Freetown in Sierra Leone. And she goes about her business in a really unusual way for a lady of her position and Englishness. The other European women who are currently in West Africa at the time, they're either missionaries or like administrators' wives. She's neither, right? So
Right.
she arrives on behalf of Hatson and Cookson. They're a firm that works in trade. She arrives as an accredited mercantile trader. She brings with her
Accredited.
right, like she has plans. So she brings with her standard cloth, tobacco, fish hooks. She plans to exchange this for things like ivory and rubber amongst the people she encounters. Now, don't let it totally fool you that she did take advantage of her position of being a white woman during this time in Africa. But by that, I mean to say that she uses that position to use local guides and porters to help her get around.
That feels smart.
But, right? Don't think for a second that she behaved or thought like most of her European counterparts. Kinsley shows respect for the indigenous African culture she encounters as well as works to understand them. She has no problem pointing out the failures of her contemporaries in this. Like she sees
Yes.
the hypocrisy and she has no problem saying it like it is. In fact, she would say, quote, "We belong to the same section of the human race with whom it is better to drink than to fight." And I just love her for
I
that.
mean, I'm here for that.
Right? Like, let's do it. She knew in her time even that it was better to see Africans as friends rather than enemies, and I genuinely think that that speaks to her nature because she was so sort of cloistered, I think, in her younger life, but she had access to all of this information that dad was sending back, right? So she's clearly understanding like I want to understand these people. Why would I make them my enemy? Like, why would I do things to be difficult? And like I said, she wants to study, she wants to learn, so she befriends all of the people she encounters. And so she, as she's starting to dig in and like really begin her work, she's taking notes, she's looking around, she notices a handful of things like right off the bat. Firstly, she notices that the regions she's visiting are they're governed by this local sort of religious aspect that includes fetishism. Okay, I had to look this up because it's not how we understand it today.
Is a fetish
So
gonna be like a small little like gree pouch kind of deal?
it could be. So basically, it's a material object like a talisman or an amulet, and they are like the home to supernatural forces. Some of the things I looked up suggest that there are basically two components here. You have the object, like the Grigori bag or the amulet, that, and then the force that give it that object life, essentially, right?
To imbue it with the
However,
power.
right, typically, in order to activate this item, a sacrifice must be made. I'm unclear what the sacrifice is and if it's different for different things. But she notices this and I think she's kind of taken by it. The other thing that she notes is that, quote, there are neither asylums, prisons, nor workhouses, yet the same classes, the sick, the criminal, and idle, exist, and under fetish law, none of them starve. So she's seeing that people are still being cared for regardless of their position within the community. And she also notices that the legal and religious and social systems of the Africans are being deeply damaged by the Europeans because colonialism and the
Right.
Europeans' desire to put their customs into practice literally everywhere they go. So, the Alice Obscura had a really good breakdown on this. They say that Kingsley basically viewed the British colonial government as extremely ignorant. She did not believe that Africa needed to be reformed. That said, and this is where her nuance comes in, she didn't argue against colonialism itself, but rather how it was handled. She still considers Europeans the more advanced of the two people, but thought that planting themselves in Africa was for all the wrong reasons.
Okay.
So she's definitely still working through some stuff, right? However, she did note that while she had a rather poor impression of other traders before she left for Africa, she noticed that their relationship was actually far better than that of like the administrators and the other missionaries that she would encounter. Additionally, in her first few months of the field work, she would write, quote, one by one, I took my old ideas derived from books and thoughts based on imperfect knowledge and weighed them against the real life around me, and I found them either worthless or wanting. So I think she is definitely taking the opportunity to look at herself, look at her culture, and look at the situation around them. Um, so remember earlier when I said she was raised agnostic and to like keep that on your burner?
Yeah.
Kingsley was notorious for upsetting the Church of England with her thoughts and her feelings on missionaries. She, like, even before she left England, she had been skeptical of missionaries. She was under the impression that the missionaries' literature didn't really actually describe the country, um, but rather pointed out, quote, how it was getting on towards being what it ought to be. In short, sources say that their work in Africa as, quote, the killing of a man's soul to save his life. This is clear that she saw as an insupportable practice, to which she makes it abundantly clear in her lectures and writing. Like, will you people just leave them be? You are damaging everything about their system. Like, please do stop.
I love this.
However,
Oh,
right?
dang
No,
it.
no, no. It's a good however. There is one missionary that she agrees with, and she meets her on her second trip. So it's December 1894. This time she's in Africa in the area of the French Congo and Gabon. So she gets there in December of 84, of 94. By April of 95, she meets Mary Slusher, and Mary is a Scottish missionary there living with the locals. And she tells Kingsley about the custom of twin killing. This is a practice I
Oh,
knew nothing about.
yeah.
So,
I knew about it. Go on. It's
right?
not fun.
So, no, Slusher is trying all her hardest to eliminate this practice. And basically, in short, it stems from the belief that, for those playing at home, that one of the twins is the offspring of the devil, and since it's not possible to tell which child it is, both are killed, and often the mother is killed with them. Slusher's work saves many lives. This practice is obviously universally illegal now, and it starts with her work. So she likes Slusher. She's like the one that she's like, okay, I can be on board with what you're doing. You make sense. Kingsley spends about 15 months in total in between the two extended trips on the continent. She travels through Ghana, Sierra Leone, Angola. While she's here, she's living amongst the locals. This is where she learns wilderness skills. While she's in Gabon, she is actually the first European to explore many parts of the area. Now, she's basically a self-taught anthropologist, right? Because Pop didn't send her to school, despite how obviously brilliant she was, but whatever. So she's out in the field. She has translators, notebooks, and like all the curiosity in the world. She wants to know everything. Um, Additionally, while she's traveling, it must be said that she is collecting fish and insect samples for a zoologist back at the British Museum, which is not entirely ideal, but at least it's just fish and bug samples that
I'm
she's
assuming
sending
she's
back.
drying them and she's not just like, well, some moistened
Like
fish
shipping them
heads to
back.
mold in this
Right.
bag.
Yeah, do hold on to this. It starts to smell after 3 days. No, it's they're properly sampled, like
Yeah.
they go back the way they're supposed to go. Um, and as she's doing this, she's doing it all in her proper Victorian skirts and all that
Yes.
comes with it. And for like the first time ever, I think I'm in agreement with it. Typically, I think here's where I'd be like, but pants and pockets. Like, get the woman a pair of pants. Not in this case.
Okay.
First of all, the visual is just gold of
It's
seeing this woman
it's
like,
giving Tarzan, the
yes,
cartoon.
yes,
Yeah.
like Jane, could you be cuter in your little yellow Victorian dress with your adorable little hat? Like that's
Yeah.
exactly what,
Yeah.
yes. So one time, Kingsley says she's about 31 at the time. She had decided to try and find a shortcut through the forest near the West African village of Afua when all of a sudden she finds herself at the bottom of a game pit lined with spikes.
Oh,
Unfortunate. She would write in her book, one of her books, it's called Travels in West Africa, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. Quote, "It is at these times you realize the blessing of a good thick skirt. Had I paid heed to the advice of many people in England and adopted masculine garments, I should have been spiked to the bone and done for. Whereas, save a good many bruises, here I was with the fullness of my skirt tucked under me, sitting on 9 ebony spikes, some 12 inches long, in comparative comfort, howling lustily to be hauled out."
I mean, if ever there was a need for a bustle, that was it.
Exactly. And I've read that comment so many times and it makes me laugh every single time. I feel like she had a great sense of humor, like like the self-depreciating, like I just freaking love it. Um, Also in this book, she is describing what traveling unaccompanied by any other Europeans was like. Rather, her traveling buddies, they're a group of Fawn or Fang tribesmen who are said to be cannibals. Which is something she had set out to learn about, cannibalism.
Yeah, I don't know if that would be something I'd be comfortable in learning about outside
Yeah,
of
it's
a book.
not on my bingo card, but here we are. So, in the time that she spends with these people, she travels through their uncharted territories. Like, please remember this visual of this white lady in big Victorian skirts doing this. She was oftentimes the first white person, male or female, that some of these tribesmen had ever seen. And I love that. In fact, she has this little story she shares where she's this I didn't put in my notes, but I'm just gonna try to give it to you off the cuff. She is kind of walking through this forest by herself and she comes upon this group of men and they are bedecked in like shells and all of this decoration and she thinks that she has accidentally walked into the sacred ritual and she knows that if she has she's toast, like you're not supposed to see the men in this sacred moment, and if she does and she gets caught she's toast. However, it wasn't a sacred ritual. They were hunting for monkeys. And she's discovered. by one of the hunters who, so basically they would don these decorative beads and shells and things, and they would sit like in the clearing, I guess, together very, very still until the monkeys came out of the tree to explore them. So it was like the
Oh.
trap for them. She's caught by one of these hunters and she is like terrified and he is besotted. He has never seen a white woman before. He's never seen the outfit that she has on, and he insists that she stay and entertain them with stories of her travels. And like they share this totally unorthodox moment in the jungle where she thinks she's most definitely gonna die, but he is like, just no, absolutely tell me what you all the things. So I'm assuming by this point, either they're communicating,
Probably be a
maybe her
translator.
translator caught up, is what I'm
Yeah.
thinking. Um, or she maybe learned a little bit of their language. I'm unclear on how they're able to communicate, but she had a jolly afternoon with the monkey hunters.
I mean, this sounds very akin to when Yasuke is discovered by Oda Nobunaga, and he's like, I have never seen a black man.
What are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty much that across the board for both parties. Like I said, she thought she walked into a sacred ritual, and I don't know if she was like trying to spy on it to figure out what it was, or if she was just trying to hastily get away when one of them caught her. But either way, I love the visuals.
Maybe a little column A, a little column B.
Yeah, I'm thinking. So while in the Cameroon area, she climbs the active volcano, Mount Cameroon. She traverses the 13,250 feet, or for our British friends, 4,000 meters. She was the first European to do so on the route she chose. In her skirts, in full Victorian style. And I love this.
You may need to
So,
not whisper. I mean, I don't know if you understand that, yes, you spoke it into
whispering
a
can't be
microphone.
heard. I know, but I just need you to know I'm trying to calm myself down about how much I love the visuals. Okay?
Okay. Okay.
Thank you. It's November. It's 1895. Kingsley returns to England and she spends the next few years traveling around the country giving lectures, all while she's expressing her strong feelings for the people of Africa and what she sees as the good and the bad and all the things she's learned. And I love that. Women in Exploration says, quote, her two books, Travels in West Africa and West African Studies, as well as her speeches and lobbying in England, promoted a new understanding of these little understood tribes and people. Could we have more of that, please? Now, 1899 rolls around, and we're in the Second Boer War, which is what I had to look up on Wikipedia. I knew there was more than one, but I didn't fully understand the Boer Wars. It's in full swing. In March of 1900, Kingsley volunteers as a nurse in South Africa. So she's in South Africa and she's taking care of the prisoners of war in the Palace Barracks in Simone's Town, which has been converted into this sort of makeshift hospital. Can you guess what happens next?
Honestly, I can't because so much of her story has been non sequitur for me.
Right, it's typhoid. It's moving through the wards, and within 2 months, she develops it and dies on June 3rd of 1900.
No.
I know. I
I
was
was
sad
not
too.
expecting an emergency exit stage left.
Right? However, and I think this is interesting because nowhere else in her story, maybe in the book, I cannot, like I said, I can't wait to get my hands on it, but maybe in the book she expresses this, but her wishes upon her death were to be buried at sea, which were granted.
Wow.
Atlas Obscura says, quote, at the end of her life, Kingsley claimed pride in two things: her hard-earned ability to paddle a canoe like the natives, and scientists' acceptance of her fish specimens, though most would agree that she had a few other things to be proud of. In 1903, an honorary medal was founded in her name by the Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine, and I'm going to leave her story with a quote from her that was from the year before her death. It is merely that I have the power of bringing out in my fellow creatures, white or black, their virtues, in a way honorable to them and fortunate for me.
Oh,
Do you want to see a picture of her?
Yes. Yes, I
Okay.
do.
So you can have the full.
Okay, so this woman is mighty prim and proper. She is in a collar that goes literally to the bottom of her chin. It looks like a turkey neck, um, made of fabric. She is, I mean, the dress is dark colored, or it could just be this is black and white. I don't, black and white photo. I should have said that. She is wearing a headpiece that is covered in flowers, very Victorian. She has a rather smug smile on her face.
She really does.
Um, she seems really fun, but she's the one who seems to be telling you the tongue-in-cheek stories just by her image.
I feel like she has a very McGonagall feel to her,
I'll take it.
right? So the last picture I have, I think if I'm not mistaken, this is actually from one of her books.
Okay, so she's showing a picture of a hut made of straw or grass. There are half a dozen villagers, look mostly like children, around it to me. Um, just like a day in the life kind of view.
Yep. I find it interesting that they have such different like the one boy in the front has what looks to be like plaid pants on.
Yeah,
Yeah. And now I don't know if this photo was taken like by her or from someone within her circle or it was added to her book after the fact, but I think it gives us a glimpse into what she was seeing either way. And I think it's pretty fabulous. So that's the story of Mary Kingsley who traversed Africa in her Victorian skirts. And for the first time in I think all of my storytelling, I'm cool with the fact that she didn't wear pants.
I mean, I think probably because she's able to sit on spikes.
Uh, and comfortable while she howled lustily for someone to get her out.
I want to howl lustily. I can't say that too loud, or Hubs will help me in that endeavor.
Many blessings.
So, if you're wondering what stories we're going to tell that are going to be as unhinged as this week, pants or no pants, then rate, review, subscribe, and join us because, yeah, on that note, goodbye.
Bye.